Madam President, learned teachers and dear students, I think I'm a rank outsider here. I was formerly never a student of Professor Irfan Habib, but I always felt that I was, because I've attended countless lectures by Professor Irfan Habib, have observed him very closely in this faculty, and have definitely learned a lot from him. Apart from his academic credentials, about which everybody has spoken and we all know much about it, there are certain qualities of Professor Irfan Habib which impressed me quite a lot, and I've always tried to emulate them. As far as, honestly speaking, as far as the academic community of the Aligarh Muslim University is concerned, I don't find any other person who rather encapsulates all these qualities in his personality which Professor Irfan Habib does. Some of us might have claims to some of these qualities, but to have all those qualities in the same measure as he does have, I think it's almost impossible. I will talk about a few of them, and I would try to, especially to the students, because most of the qualities which are being mentioned here and which I will also mention appear to be very commonplace. But we need to understand that how these qualities, when you look at Professor Irfan Habib and how he rather lived his life as an academic in the university, how it is different from others. For example, somebody talked here about his rather taking a stand on important issues, his speaking truth to power. Now, many of us would say that there are other people also on the campus who speak truth to power. But usually what happens that our outrage at issues is very selective. It's quite often guided by our convenience. But somebody who over decades, has always stood up for issues without being selective, and most of the times being very sure that he's trying to ruffle many a feather and he's speaking things, which might have a big cost, but still, he would always take a stand. And his stand on issues like majoritarianism, when Babri Masjid was demolished, even on the issue of reservation, when the university here decided to go for reservation in 2004-05, that was a stand which was taken by the university. The same stand was taken by the union government, but Professor Irfan Habib had a different take on that. He wrote articles in newspapers, and he had a very decent, logic to suggest that AMU should not go for reservations. But that was what he understood, and he stood by it without being swayed by, different kinds of persuasions which were there on the campus. Similarly, Asim Saab just now talked about the issue of invigilation duty. Today, because last year and before that, since I was working as dean here, so I had very closely observed how fellow colleagues take to invigilation duties. Many of them don't even respond to the notice. Some of them who come and report, this is the examination room incidentally, when they come here, they wear a very, angry kind of a frown on their faces. Only few of us are very rather happily entering this room. And as Asim Saab just now mentioned, we have experience of Professor Irfan Habib mostly when he was head invigilator. He would be walking up and down the corridor, taking the list of invigilators in his hands, always active. He would not sit even for a second in the invigilation room. And of course, that kind of energy, had an effect on other colleagues as well. We also learned that is how invigilation needs to be done, although many of us have forgotten those lessons with time. But still, finally, I would make another small point which appears to be very simple, but it's very important. And that is about the modesty and humility of Professor Irfan Habib, which is something characteristic of a self-actualized person. I have a personal experience of that. Once, a few decades back, I think there was a student who had qualified the civil services mains examination, and his optionals were political science and history. So the director of the coaching and guidance center suggested that you go and have a mock interview with Professor Irfan Habib and Asmar Beg as well. So that student incidentally went first to Professor Irfan Habib's chamber, and from there he called me saying that, Asmar Sahab, are you free, and when are you free, and I can come over to your room for that interview, which this student has, we have to interview this student. I couldn't understand how to react, I was stammering, I said, okay sir, I'm just coming. This kind of an humility, this kind of humbleness, this kind of unpretentiousness, is something, which is very, very rare. And I think in addition to all the other qualities mentioned here, this is the icing on the cake. And this is something which elevates him to the level of the master, which he actually is. Thank you.